This is the Rugby Muscle Podcast, talking all that you need to become the best rugby player you can be. Now here are the Rugby Muscle coaches, TJ and Alex.
Is he saying pick the bodies out or take the bodies out? Take the bodies out?
Yep.
Call the ambulances. Get it, Alex.
No, we're not doing that.
We are, because we're talking about injuries today on the Rugby Muscle Podcast. I am your host, as always, TJ, and as always, I'm joined by Alex.
How's it going?
Who has now got more time because this is our second time recording this podcast. Alex now has much more time to think about the fact of the week. So we're all waiting and we're thinking we're going to get an absolutely special fact here. So
definitely not.
It's time for the facts of the week.
I'm still going for the South Park one, mate. 20 years strong.
Is it actually 20 years?
Yeah, they're in the 20th season now.
This is their 20th season.
They've redone the whole start and everything.
Wow, that's an interesting fact.
And it's like the one where if you look at like Simpsons and Family Guy and like American Dad, all those other cartoons, and even Archer, which is relatively new, you can see as they've gone on through the seasons how much better the graphics design? Animation, there you go. How much better the animation is, right?
Yeah, especially on Simpsons. The early Simpsons are shit.
And the early Family Guy, atrocious. Anyway, now...
It was Google's 18th birthday as well.
Here we go, we're coming out of all anniversary. Yeah, I did see that somewhere.
Was it on Google?
Think about that. 18 years ago, there was no such thing as Google.
Yeah, there was. That's literally what birthday means. So 18 years ago today, there was Google.
That's what I mean. 19 years ago then.
Yeah.
Shut up. Did you ever use Ask Jeeves? That's what I used to use before Google.
I asked him where my bacon sandwich was once, and I stopped using him.
Why? What did he say?
Know.
Huh?
He did not know where my bacon sandwich was, so I stopped using him.
You should have used... Well, now you can even use Siri, and they'll answer that.
You seen the Google Assistant thing?
The what?
Google Assistant.
Now, is it the same thing as Siri?
Yeah, exactly the same.
But on an Android?
I've only used it on Google. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I don't really like Siri. It never really answers any of my questions.
That's fair. Cool.
And don't update your iPhone. I've updated it again, and now it still wants another update. I literally did it like last week.
So done with that.
But, I mean, what am I going to do? I'm not going to change to an Android.
That'd be crazy.
I know. I'm always complaining about Apple and iTunes, but I'm literally sat here, and I've said literally like a million times now, but I've got my iPhone on my left, my MacBook in front of me, and my iPad to my right. I'm actually only using my MacBook, but that's where they're laid out. Anyway, we're talking about injuries, not about technology or anniversaries or shit. So, Alex, what types of injuries can we get as rugby players before we discuss how to avoid them? Because obviously what we're going to do is hopefully give you guys some information about how you can avoid getting injured as a rugby player, because if you're injured, you cannot improve as much as you can if you're not injured.
Yeah.
That's a roundabout way of saying that sentence.
So, the types of injuries, this isn't exclusive, but types of injuries are like contact collision injuries. That's like essentially when you get hit. So either like some kind of impact, essentially an impact injury. Non-contact injuries, that generally is a deceleration or a change of direction injury.
Yep.
And then we got like sprains and strains and general overuse stuff.
Yeah.
Which can come from what it says, overuse.
And then those injuries are in order of how preventable they are, correct?
Reverse order, yes.
Excellent. So, which order do you want to look at it in?
Let's go from the big ones to
how
the
we
small
can go
ones.
about preventing them.
Yeah, so So we'll go from non-preventable,
Okay.
or partially preventable to.
So, contact injuries. These are almost exclusive to athletes, pretty much. In terms of, especially in terms of risk. I mean, you can get a contact injury by crashing a car or something, but...
Well, I told you about Zeph the other day, didn't I?
What?
Came with his motorbike doing a land speed thing.
No, you didn't tell me this.
Oh, you know Maxi
That podcast
Muscle?
never happened, remember?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you know Maxi Muscle?
You're right, yeah.
Well, the founder of Maxi Muscle is Zeph Eisenberg. He was doing his race the other day, land speed stuff, and he came off his bike and just shattered, like, his legs and pelvis and stuff.
Ouch. Oh, yeah, he's from Guernsey, right?
He lives in Guernsey, yeah.
And he is the owner of Maxi Muscle?
He was. He sold it a couple of years ago.
Okay. Fair enough. And
Anyway,
so
yeah,
he
collision
got a
injuries
contact
happen
injury. Yeah.
to,
But
mate.
yeah, collision injuries are almost exclusive to rugby players in terms of like big risk or athletes that are playing in contact sports. These are the injuries you get when you've got another 100-kilo guy running at you. You know, the human body isn't designed to go at each other like that. It's not designed to, rugby is something that we invented and therefore we get injured from it.
Yep, I guess. But I don't know if specifically rugby, like any activity where you're having an impact on your body. So it could be from anywhere from getting punched and kicked in like a combat sport.
Yep.
To rugby, to gridiron. I guess maybe in soccer you get a little bit of it, like when heads clash and stuff.
Yeah, you'll get it in soccer, like tackles and stuff.
Yeah, so anything where you're getting hit by another person or another object.
Yeah, and this is... We're not saying that you're highest risk, but these are the least preventable because it doesn't matter what you do in the gym. Sometimes you could have the perfectly shaped body, everything is perfect, your strength ratios are in check, you've got no injuries, you get all the soft tissue work in the world, you're literally performing at 100%, but someone comes into you at the wrong angle and something has to give.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Can't help that.
we're not saying they're completely... Like, you can reduce that risk quite significantly by simply training smart. So what do we mean by training smart, Alex?
So, literally training smart would be looking at the issues, figuring out how to fix them. So for collision industries, we know that the more muscle mass we have around a joint, the more stable the joint's going to be. Mm-hmm. So we look at like the shoulder, which is an inherently unstable joint, which means that you're going to pick up a lot of injuries in your shoulder. Generally rugby, one of the biggest injuries is shoulder injuries.
Yep.
If we can use extra muscle around the joint to kind of hold it in place a little bit more than just relying on the connective tissue, we're going to see less shoulder injuries occurring. There's actually a technique deal to this as well. I don't know if you've looked into this, where it's like a chest tackle rather than a shoulder tackle.
No.
So you're looking at almost... So when, you know your traditional tackle technique where your arms kind of extended away from your body?
Yep.
Well, your shoulder's in a pretty compromised position there.
Correct.
But if you go for like a hit more of your chest and your shoulder...
See a bit more upright?
You can still be lower, but we just won't be as like...
Okay, so you're closer into the body?
Yeah. Then you have like less... If I'm right on the shoulder joint,
there's going to be less strain on the arm and therefore the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
But
you see people blow biceps out like that as well.
But I would say that one is going to be more damaging. You're more likely to do an AC joint injury.
Potentially.
Like, there's more potential for that. But, I mean, what we're saying is, if you're going to play rugby, and you should acknowledge this, there's always a risk of some sort of injury that you can do.
Yeah. How many matches have you played when someone has got injured, you know?
But to put yourself in the best position, if you can build a good bit of muscle around each joint, and probably importantly, build that muscle evenly, we'll talk about that a little bit more with the other injuries and how we can prevent them. But if your shoulders... if your shoulder's already like quite weak, or not weak, if your shoulder's weak, let's do that first. If your shoulder's weak, it's going to be more likely to be put out of place by collision. If your shoulder is imbalanced, say you've got a bigger chest and you've got no back, your shoulder's already rotated forward, again, it's more likely to get injured because it's already in a somewhat compromised position. It's not sitting happy where it should be. Those would be my two best ways. Another way is obviously mobility. And I mean this in the sense of not, can you reach your toes? But how mobile are you when you're performing? Because if you put yourself in a position that you're not used to because you're so immobile when you move, then again you're more likely to get injuries or injured from a contact scenario.
Let's talk about mobility as a control for a range of motion rather than the ability to perform a range of motion. Mm-hmm. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's not about how far you can reach or if you can do the splits or something. It's how you can control your body in certain positions. Mm-hmm. Again, we'll probably need to get Speedy on to discuss this because he's the mobility king as far as I'm concerned.
He doesn't move well.
And then I would also say one more way to avoid contact injuries is by getting efficient mechanics.
Go into that.
So the better you move, again, the less likely. This will probably be more towards the next one, so the non-contact injuries. But the better you move, the less likely you're to find yourself in another compromised position, and the less you can be in a compromised position, the less likely you can be to get a contact injury. Simple.
Okay, cool. That comes down to some skill stuff as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Which will bring us on to the next one. So, non-contact injuries.
So this is essentially any injury you pick up which doesn't involve getting hit.
Yeah.
So you see it a lot in change of directions.
Yeah, your main culprit is when people try to... You see it a lot in football more than rugby. Maybe
when they plant and twist.
Smaller legs. When you
see a lot of it in acceleration and deceleration.
Yeah.
So people rarely blow out a hamstring at top velocity running. It's usually either in the acceleration phase or when they're trying to slow down really quickly. In fact, the slowing down part is probably the most common.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Top speed is where your hamstring's more it's going to be performing at its highest. So I'd thought that's when you're going to get more injuries. No.
You can double check it, mate, but I'm pretty sure it is most common in deceleration and then acceleration.
Deceleration. I see. I'd say also, like, how often are you sprinting at top speed in the game of rugby as well?
Well, rugby happens in like a 10-metre box, you know.
Yeah, we always talk about this. Anyway,
so very rarely, unless you get up to top speed in 10 metres.
Yeah.
In which case, top speed probably isn't very high.
No, it's slow.
Yeah, you're probably okay on that one. Wingers, fullbacks, maybe a little more often.
Yeah, but we're looking at hamstring injuries, and knee injuries from when you twist your foot, right? Or and possibly ankle injuries.
Yeah, you'd hope not ankle injuries, but that happens, you know. How to avoid them? There was a nice little study out on eccentric hamstring curls recently.
Nordic drops.
Pardon me?
Eccentric hamstring curls.
Yep.
Reduces Nordic drops.
One reduces risk of injury in the hamstrings and increases top sprint speed.
Definitely. Again, this might go back to building your muscle evenly around the joint as well.
For sure.
As well, because a lot of people will just do pretty much just squats, or they'll just do knee movements from the knee. They won't worry about movements from the hinge at the hip. And then therefore you're building all your quad muscles, but you're not building hamstrings and glutes to compensate, and then therefore there's going to be... You're not going to have the right mechanics then. Yeah,
so essentially if we look at muscle imbalances, we can go that quad to hamstring ratio.
Can let's just save muscle imbalances for the next one.
Okay, cool. Yep.
Yeah. Because it is, so it's something we need to acknowledge. So muscle imbalances is another reason you can get a non-contact injury, but let's look at it because it's probably the main culprit of more other injuries that we're going to look at.
Yes.
So, again, this is more so influenced by mechanics as well. So when you're doing plyometric work, jump work, as we discussed in one of the previous episodes about progressions, if you focus on landing mechanics first, then you're going to be, or you're going to have a much better chance of not getting an injury, because you learn to move right. Your body, you need to learn to move without thinking about it and plant your foot. So say for example, if you're stepping to your right side, you're going to aim at planting that left foot in a strong position and then propelling yourself off of that left foot. If you try and plant your right foot as well and twist that right foot, that's when you're putting yourself in a compromised position that you can blow out your ACL.
Yeah, which no one wants.
Yeah. So the better you can move, the better you can learn to absorb shock, all of that good stuff. The more like, or the less likely you are to get injured, blow out a knee or an ankle or whatever. Which means to me, when people do so much plyometrics, you're putting yourself in a fatigue state, and you're already like tiring yourself out with those mechanics, because it's very highly stressful. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, one of the worst things I've seen was a plyometrics cardio class.
Oh my god.
I was so upset.
But luckily, I'm imagining that no one that's going to that plyometrics cardio class is doing that twice a week and then playing.
I'd imagine not. No.
But yeah, this is another way that you can avoid getting non-contact injuries, is just by managing in season, managing the amount of plyometric work you do, the amount of running, sprinting, and the amount of like literally shock you're getting through your feet, because that is going to fatigue you, and eventually something's going to give.
I think we're both proponents of that high-low kind of system, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially you need to manage your training load so your central nervous system is not getting flux, so you can control your movements better.
Yeah, definitely. Which will lead us on perfectly to the next one, right?
Which is our overuse injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, if you do too much stuff, you wear things out. I think that kind of sums it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So
something's got to give.
Carry on.
No, that was it.
Sweet. That was nice and easy. So in that kind of deal, we can look at a really good one, which isn't actually rugby specific, is carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
Or repetitive strain from typing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want to do. So everyone knows what that is, right? I assume everyone knows what that is.
When you've got knackered forearms and wrists from typing too much sitting at a desk.
Yeah, pretty much. You do the same movement over and over again. It causes inflammation. You get sore. It's actually quite painful, I hear.
It is. I got it when I first started doing online coaching.
Did you?
Yeah. And so I bought an ergonomic keyboard, and life has been much better.
Nice. I always thought guessing a dictation software would work better, but yeah. Anyway, this is off topic. So we were going to chat about this muscle imbalance deal. Do you want to go into that in terms of this quad hamstring stuff?
Yeah, so basically your joints, pretty much every joint will have a flexor and an extensor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Apart from the shoulder, which is a lot more confusing. But you have different sets of muscles that will manipulate your joints. So, for example, you can look at your elbow, and your bicep will flex your elbow, so it'll pull your elbow towards you or pull the joint shut. And then the tricep will extend, which will straighten the elbow. Each joint has something similar, and if you have one muscle, so say if all I did was bicep curls and I never did any triceps, that's going to put my elbow in a compromising position, because I've got so much weight pulling the elbow one way, but I haven't got any weight trying to control it the other way. That's as simple as I can put it. And if you can imagine that at every joint, so you've got your hips, 15 minutes is up, you've got your hips, your knees, yes, your shoulders as well, because you've got your pecs and your back muscles, and there's a ton of different things that you can do to try and make sure that you even that out. Basically, whatever training load you do on one side of a joint, make sure you do something almost equal on the other side, right?
Yeah, an equal strength on both sides.
Yeah. So however much work you do on your chest, you should do as much work pulling, if not more.
Depending on your sport.
Yeah.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, which we'll quickly go into. We've got 5 more minutes. So depending on your sport, go into that, what you mean by that.
Well, this is kind of a bit of an Aristotic example, but powerlifting.
Right.
Well, it is very beneficial to have a big back with powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
When you're pressing, because bench press is one of your primary movements, you might want to put a little bit extra emphasis on that. You want to be strong when you press, really.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to mean, by being sports specific, you might have to do, but then I'd say that your bench press work doesn't count as your accessory work. You do less chest work accessory because all of your benching is sports specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the example I use on the zombie pod that's now gone was swimming. So I used to train quite a few swimmers, and what they would have, the problem is the opposite problem that everyone else has in the world, is that when you're swimming, all of your actions that you use with your upper body pretty much is pulling. So all that pulling builds up a nice strong back, but unfortunately you don't build up any pushing muscles, so your chest, which means that they have shoulder issues, the opposite of 99% of the world, because all they do is stuff that they don't see in the mirror. So that means my job as a strength and conditioning coach means that I will encourage them to do push work, chest work, because that will then sit that shoulder back into a position that it should be.
Do what you
Basically,
don't do
you want to do what you don't do in your sport, right?
Literally just said that.
Is that exactly what you said?
Exact word for word what I just said.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need to do, because you're getting your volume of of work through different movements by playing your sport, which is going to then it's going to build up movements that are stronger than others, which you need to try and compensate for.
Excellent.
I've completely lost my head.
What we're going to do, talk about hamstring movement around the knee.
Right, go on then.
Because while we're talking about balances, we're saying about quad to hamstring imbalance, which is cool, but you have to look at balance around each individual joint as well. So when we look at quads and hamstrings, they cross over both the knee and the hip. Yep.
Yeah.
And then you went on to say about people are ignoring hip dominant hamstring movements.
Yeah.
But even more ignored is knee dominant hamstring movements.
Yeah.
And that's a real big issue, because when you start training hamstrings around the knee, you're like, oh, I'm all good, I can sprint, my muscles are going to be strong there. But you've got a hamstring which crosses the knee joint but doesn't cross the hip joint. So if you're only training hamstrings across the hip, you have this one hamstring which is kind of lagging behind.
Yeah.
And it's one of the major ones in sprinting, yeah?
Yeah, so to clarify, your hamstring is a muscle group, not just like one muscle.
Yes.
Okay, and they will run across both the hip and knee joints, except one of them doesn't run through the hip.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember which one it is.
Yeah, I don't know the name of it, but it doesn't matter. What that means is that it doesn't get worked by just doing hamstring work from the hip.
Yep. So you've got to get some knee dominant hamstring work in.
Yeah.
So that might mean a lying hamstring curl or a glute ham raise or Nordic curls or I mean, that's pretty much sprinting's pretty good for it, but you can't just jump straight into sprinting.
No, I also like Nordic curls or anything eccentric, because it puts a good load on, which is more akin to sprinting.
Yeah.
So it prepares
any kind of valve slide curls or Swiss ball curls.
Oh yeah, valve slide curls.
Yeah,
Have you got them
valve
on your
slide
Insta?
work. Pardon me?
Have you got any of those on your Instagram?
Probably. If not, I can.
Get some, because I want to link that shit, because that sounds great.
Pardon me?
Get some.
Yeah, I got to do it today.
Cool. Yeah. So basically, to avoid this last section of injuries that you only get if you're being a bit of a dickhead with your training, which we have all been at one point in our life, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, you need to this is where you need to use the gym to actively prevent yourself from getting injuries, simply by just doing some accessory work. This can always just be done at the end of a session, but you've got aim to do stuff that you either isn't a priority. So by no means we're suggesting that you can't prioritize some certain movements, but just make sure you keep up some extra volume in other movements to avoid putting yourself in a bad position muscular wise.
Yeah.
And then basically you want to try and do movements that aren't done in your sport, because again, you need to try and bring it back. You need to keep your body as evenly balanced as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, cool. All right, so let's wrap this all up. Alex, give us some key points that we can just jot on a postcard so that the guys can take home and do it.
1, realise you're going to get injured playing rugby as a contact sport. 2, actively work so you minimise the number of preventable injuries that you can have.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then my 2 would be 1, make sure that you are using the most efficient mechanics possible when sprinting, stepping, and performing all sport movements. And then number 2, look at your body, try and look at each joint and make sure you're working it through evenly, like with an even amount of volume through both positions. So forward, front and back, side to side, rotation one way, rotation another.
Cool. Excellent.
All right. Cool, guys.
All right,
I think we're going to efficiently finish it there. Eh? That was efficient, wasn't it?
So,
all right, boys. Bye.
Ciao.
More important to warm up for this session because I've already probably stiffened up a little bit from previous. So let's get it done.